Hello and welcome back to Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. I am, as always, Chat Show, and you look so damn handsome and or pretty. Welcome to the 68th show. Wasn't sure what to call it. Here on 10-10-10. If you're watching us after the fact, we're shooting the show with the date being 10-10-10. I missed last year's big celebration on the 999, so I don't even know what that felt like. But I can tell you, 10-10-10 as a day. I do want to thank everyone in Chicago for a fantastic weekend. I just came back, and boy, are my corrupt politicians tired. What? Blagojevich! You're not buffering. That's comedy commitment.
He's your best friend now.
Blagojevich?
No, Jerry Lewis.
Oh, Jerry Lewis. Just my
you guys are
friend.
BFFs.
He called up. There was a follow-up to a piece we did here. I shared my my first conversation with Jerry Lewis about my Showtime special. The follow-up is, you're right, Jamie. I wrote my comments for this and put it on the blog on the kevinpollak.tv. And then I got a call from Jerry saying that he read the blog. Now he's a stalker. Anyways, yes, Jerry's my new friend. And Chicago was great. Had a wonderful time there in the burg of Sham, otherwise known as the Schomburg. Thanks to Tony Baldino and crew for a yabba dabba do time. Jamie, I think it's time to address the question that's on everyone's mind. How the hell could we possibly function without Sam Levine?
Where's Wayne Fetterman? I usually get a Fetterman replacement.
That's
whenever
right.
Sam's not around.
The one time. Is this is that the only what other LA?
I'm sure he's missed, but I think other ones that he's missed, we weren't doing this shot yet. Like we didn't have the camera over here.
Oh, special additional angle. Now that we're a five.
I'm just going to pout until Wayne Fetterman shows up in his chucks.
All right, well that's a good call. I think that's only fair. Are you excited at all about Tuesday's visit to the Disney World? Is that at all on your mind?
No one cares about my Disney World.
Oh, no one cares
anymore because they're like she goes all the time.
Our guest
Now I'm going for Mickey's Not So Scary Trick or Treat. I'm going as the White Rabbit.
Tell us about it.
And so that's Tuesday, and
right.
then
were you able to find a White Rabbit costume that wasn't the slut White Rabbit? Because it seems
I made
like
this myself.
Oh, really?
The White Rabbit. I pieced it together, and it is not slutty. It's cute.
Yeah, no, I've actually seen physical evidence.
I have a little
It's
cottontail.
ridiculously cute. You do have a cottontail, and it's appropriate to an actual.
No, I'm against the slutty costumes.
Yeah, well, as soon as they made the slutty bee, I think that was the line in the sand.
No,
for us.
worst was slutty Ghostbuster. Peter Venkman was not slutty.
That's where you're wrong. In his heart and mind, the Venkman was a total slut.
Even though I wouldn't mind seeing 1980s
Easy.
Harold Ramis.
Don't even.
Oh,
don't go there. All right, well, you'll be missed all week, but you'll be back next Sunday for the show, I guess. We have been functioning here on Show 68 for quite a while, and this last April, we actually became the award-winning Kevin Pollak's Chat Show. And they have this thing called the Streamy Award, and this is what mine looks like. I brought it on the show after we won it. But all of the awards for my crew showed up today, so I want to show you the difference. That's what mine looks like. And then my crew actually has their names written on them. This is mine. They have their names. So I want them to quickly parade by here and pick up their Streamy Award live. Jason McIntyre, I have your Streamy Award. There'll be no acceptance speeches. I took care of all that. You're all half drunk from last night. Anyways, Emily Goodwin. Thank you, Jason McIntyre.
Thanks, Kevin.
Nicely done.
Thanks, Kevin.
You bet. Nicely done. Josh Negrin, step right up. This is what we call the Negrin grab. That's it. You knew it was coming. Dr. Chen, calling Dr. Chen. You're wanted in the OR. Congratulations, sir. Nicely done. Jamie Foxx, head writer, and now Streamy Award winner. The one and only. See, now you're not the only award-winning Jamie Foxx. Look at that. And lastly...
I'm white and a girl.
Wow. Thanks for pointing out the obvious. And your real name, as everyone knows. And of course, our fearless director, Mike Rotman. Let's have, and co-executive producer. Thank you, sir. Nicely done. Take the rest of the minute off. Again, they all have nameplates. I don't. Not bitter. Thank you and congratulations to all today's winners. And those of you who remain nominees, sorry. All right, it's time for Ask Kevin. Let's see what's on your mind out there as viewers of this damn near show. If only there were a graphic. Whoa, look at that. Jason asks Kevin, right. Jason Davis asks, do you and your friends, put your damn Streamy Award down and run the fucking teleprompter, will you? Do you and your friends that are actors give each other shit for bad movies that you're in? Example, that is a nice hat. Did you buy it with your Joanna Man money? Nicely played, at Jason Amania. And I could have bought several of these hats with my Joanna Man money, fuckhead. Yeah, that's the fun of it, isn't it? We give each other shit about the garbage. And Jamie and I were actually talking about this the other day. And non-professionals, I'm assuming such as yourself, have no idea what it's like to actually eke out a living at some point in the entertainment world. And it's, yeah, if you're going to have a body of work, that body is going to include some blemishes that you'd rather people not see. Nespa? On to question 2. Bruno Santos again? We've got to find somebody else to write questions. Many actors at one point in their careers turn out to become directors, even though most of them face it as a one-time only thing. I witnessed this happen most with the rich ones, so I assume it is not because of the money. I don't even know what that means. Can you talk a little bit about the motivation behind that? Does it have something to do with giving back to the art form in an effort to break new artists, therefore creating a vicious circle? I need a Sherpa to get through this question. I'm just asking because the impression I get, clearly conscious that it might be completely wrong, is that directing is somewhat more attractive to actors than writing, being that even though it happens, I don't see as many actors becoming writers. Thank you for the answer. I need a nap or something.
Do you need some Cliff Bars and some nuts?
I need some protein. I really do. Someone to hold me up. I think you want to know why I think directors who are actors only do it on a one-off, because, Bruno, you're exhausting. Please shorten your questions, make them more concise and sensible, and I promise I will at some point answer one of your questions. I directed a web series recently called Vamped Out, which I'm obnoxiously happy with, and mostly about the experience. So I will definitely return to it. And it was fun breaking some new talent. Yeah, that was definitely part of it. But the whole aspect of it was fun for me. And I'm sorry to bust this up for you, but I've been a member of the Writers Guild since 1987, so nah. So, yeah, and didn't Kevin Costner also pen his Academy Award-winning effort? I think he wrote that screenplay as well for the Dances with the Wolves. Yeah. I don't know what you're talking about, Bruno, but get back to us in a shorter way. And lastly, hello, Kevin. I recently watched Numb. Did you? Again, and realized, thanks, Kenny, and you are eating, were you still trying to digest Bruno's question? Yeah. I recently watched Numb again and realized you are eating in the majority of your scenes. I've heard actors complain about scenes with food and how hard it is to coordinate chewing and speaking. Yet, you accomplished this feat so deftly. 1, was this recurring bit of business your idea? 2, how do you manage to so skillfully eat and deliver lines? It was my idea, and I believe Matthew Perry contributed to it largely. But between us, we kind of thought it'd be funny if I ate, not often, but in every single scene I was in. So, truth be told, it's every single scene I'm in the movie I'm eating. And I think Jack Nicholson wins the award for best eating in a scene from Prizzi's Honor. He devours a bowl of pasta. That's most impressive. And the hardest thing in movies is that you're doing it 60,000 times and spitting it in a bucket eventually. But he devours food, which I did not have the palate or stomach for. So thank you for noticing, I think. Wait, is this another Ask Kevin? Nope. No, of course not. Ah, yes, of course. Well, that's it for the Ask Kevin. We wrapped that up and we moved quickly on to the Larry King game because we're only 10 minutes and 45 seconds into the opening. And I'm determined not to get to 17 minutes, as was suggested. Today's winner on the Larry King game is Vincent Petrulli. Hope that's how you say it. He offers up this Larry King game, and those of you who'd like to participate, just simply send in your suggestion to contacts@kevinpollakschatshow.com or go to the YouTube page and shoot your own and load it up to the kevinpollakschatshow.com website. So he offers this one, and this is what brought him the lovely T-shirt, the Kevin Pollak's Chat Show T-shirt. That would be the prize. The 1990s saw me doing a lot of crazy things, the least of which was making love to all the members of the Spin Doctors. Goobertown, Arizona, go. I like that. Who would make love?
If you want to call me baby, just go ahead down. If you
We can't afford that. What are you doing?
Oh, crap.
Stop immediately.
Oh, they need the money. They only had the one album.
I think what were we discussing not more than a year ago? What the hell happened to the Fabulous Spin Doctors? Oh, right.
They had one album.
Yeah, they had the one album.
One album wonders.
Ladies and Jews, 19 months ago, while internet mini-mogul Jason Calacanis was giving me a tour of this very facility, I walked into this very studio and had a nutty idea to do a talk show. I was going to attempt to fill a void that I insisted existed in traditional media, the long-form one-on-one conversation. Calacanis had the infrastructure and I had the time, or so I thought. So when he said, "How soon can you start?" my sphincter tightened. Oh shit, I've got to really do this now. My eyes were soon opened to a world that I'd only heard about from the lofty perch of so-called real showbiz. My education began that day. Slowly but surely, I discovered there were several pioneers who had come before me. Brave, creative people who, like myself, I'm assuming, had grown frustrated and tired of the way things work in traditional media, which is to say that they mostly don't, and everything takes forever to get past the numerous gatekeepers. Tired were we that once lucky enough to be allowed to bring our creative vision to the small or large screen, we quickly learned that the network or studio have pinpointed the exact center of your originality or brilliant idea and would most certainly be adding a shit ton of water. And so, a good 10 years before I found this studio and my place in its lights, a few pioneers like my guest today had already been literally inventing ways to deliver and market original content online. It is an honor to have a true forefather and pioneer of the interwebs with us today. Please welcome Mr. Tim Street. Mr. Street, if that's your real name.
What an intro.
Sometimes I get a little self-involved, sorry.
Wow.
Well, I just feel like sometimes it's worth it, and today certainly was. Thank you very much for joining us.
I'm happy to be here. I'm a little bit disappointed that Sam's not here.
I know, right?
I used to work with Sam, and he doesn't remember me. Like, I'll see Sam at all these different web video events, and
he claims...
I go, "Hey, Sam, how's it going?" And he's like, "Hello."
that sounds like Sam.
Hello.
That's our Sammy.
Who is this guy? I used to do behind the scenes on Freaks and Geeks.
Shut up.
And I would shoot in Super 8. So I'd walk in with a Super 8 camera and shoot behind the scenes of that show. So okay, Sam, stand up against the locker. Okay, okay, great. All right, go back to what you're doing.
Was he a natural born ham even then?
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
Well, it's a shame no one on that show went on to any sort of career. So, but you did a lot of that sort of thing, the shooting behind the scenes, no?
Yeah, I spent a lot of time in TV promo and movie trailer,
right.
TV special world. So it was, wherever you could find a buck. I worked with people like Elvira, Betty White, would do specials on Game Show Network, and then behind the scenes and launch campaigns. I worked on a launch campaign for Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Now, what does that mean exactly, the launch campaign, for those watching?
Sure. So when a TV show first starts out, a pilot is done. But
right.
that pilot has to be shown to advertisers.
Right.
And they don't want to watch the whole thing.
Hell no.
So a trailer is created, and that's called an upfront presentation. So that presentation, that trailer, is shown to advertisers and ad agencies and executives in New York at an event called Upfront.
Right.
And that's where they get the money to do shows.
Yeah, that's where the big heads of the networks, the heads of the five families, parade some of their stars and pitch like crazy to build up the ad dollars, and it's slowly been diminishing, and then they start bragging about their Hulu numbers and their iTunes download numbers in the last 5 or 6 years, the poor bastards. So the creators of these shows would not cut their own trailers. They would come to an expert such as yourself and say,
Well, it was always the network that would.
Oh, I see.
You know, so sometimes the networks usually cross-triangulate. So they'll get somebody in-house and then 2 or 3 agencies or boutiques on the outside.
Right.
So sometimes I worked on the inside, sometimes I had my own production company and would do it there.
Is that the Spark Factory?
That was a Spark Factory.
Right.
No longer in existence, gone away.
Well, let's talk, actually first, before, if you don't mind, we're going to need to hear a little bit about your time in 1981 as a steam train engineer at the Magic Kingdom.
Yeah, I started out actually...
Jamie, this is for you.
There you go. I started out at Disney World when I was 16. My first gig was pouring Pepsi.
Coke.
No, Pepsi.
Pepsi?
Back then. Pepsi.
When was Pepsi a sponsor?
1981.
Wow.
There you go.
That was before my time.
Pouring Pepsis at the Mile Long Bar outside the Country Bear Jamboree in the Magic Kingdom.
I'm telling you. You're
Yeah.
What year was it that Coke completely took over then?
When Epcot opened, they sponsored the American Pavilion at Epcot.
American
so that was
Adventure.
81,
Two.
82.
82. October of 82.
Yeah. So Coke was a sponsor.
So you were pouring Pepsi prior to that?
Pouring Pepsi prior to that, and then started working at Epcot and worked a lot of rides that probably aren't even there anymore.
Right.
Journey into Imagination, Captain
Rest
EO.
in peace.
The 3D movie
Which is
with
back
Michael
now.
Jackson, Captain EO, that was fun. We actually had to change the posters when Michael had some plastic surgery done. They sent new posters with a cleft in his chin.
No, they didn't.
Yeah. So somewhere out there, somebody has these collectible posters. So look, if you have a Captain EO poster, look to see if Michael Jackson has a clef or not, because I would imagine the non-clef would be worth more money.
Yeah, that's where his troubles began.
That was it.
It all started
right there.
with the clef.
Captain EO, right there.
Yeah. But then you started actually creating content for them.
Yeah, I mean, I was, working in my powder blue polyester jumpsuit at the Listen to the Land boat ride
I'll say.
at Epcot, and I would see these guys come in with cameras. I'm like, that's what I want to do. Those guys that's something cool. That's better than this.
They're shooting something on property.
And they were shooting something on property. You have
learned that phrase from her.
There you go. That's the terminology.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to do that. And so I asked him, how do I do that? We'll let you know.
Go pour some Pepsi, kid.
So I would, as soon as I got off work, I'd go hang out in the edit bay. I'd walk over there in my powder blue jumpsuit and, do whatever I could to endear myself to these people, and then eventually started being a production assistant, production coordinator, production manager, and at the same time still working in the park.
Sure.
So, and then my last job was steam train engineer, which I loved. I still would love to go do that job again. It's so much fun.
Right.
They're real trains.
Yeah.
They're real trains, and especially on a cold morning.
Oh boy.
You boil the water, like you literally build a fire, boil the water, and then pull the train out of the roundhouse and drive it around the Magic Kingdom before the park opens.
Oh my God.
It's amazing. It's amazing.
That sounds fantastic.
It's a fun job. I mean, I got to do a lot of fun things at Disney World. It was great, and then started working when the studios came online. So Disney MGM at that time, as it was called, was being built. And so we would shoot all these different fake shoots to advertise and publicize the grand opening that was coming. So even after the park had opened, I would get paid to set up a crew in the park that looked like we were shooting something, and we had a fake camera.
Wow.
And we would do this fake shoot and get paid our full rates for doing it. And then eventually the park people were like, hey, we could just hire people that load people on the rides to do that instead of hiring people that, so we lost our jobs doing that. But I started producing commercials to get people to come to Walt Disney World.
And how did that come about? Did you pitch them ideas? Or?
Again, I'd been a production manager, line producer, so I was working with the...
You networked.
I networked.
Yeah.
I was working with the in-house agency, and eventually I, kept asking, and I would work outside the park as well, and anything that I could do. I mean, I worked on the game show Remote Control.
Did you?
With Colin Quinn, Kari Worrell, Steve Trekus, and the late Kevin Ober.
Right.
It was a lot of fun. I mean, I got to do so many fun things at Disney World. It was a blast. Ken Ober.
Yeah.
Ken Ober.
But what a great, yeah, I mean, a great time in your life. Starting
Yeah.
at 16, you said?
Yeah.
And by the time you got out, which is almost as hard as getting out of the firm.
Yeah, well, they'd still draw me back. Every once in a while, I'll get
Yeah.
a call, hey, can you come to Florida?
Yeah. So what time did you, what point in your life were you able to get out?
Well, I started doing stuff at Nickelodeon.
Right.
And I did a show there, worked on a show called What Would You Do? Which was Mark Summers.
Yeah.
Lots of pies. And we had all kinds of crazy people on the show.
Where did they shoot that?
That was shot in Florida at Universal Studios.
It was.
Yeah, and it was a blast. I mean, it was so much fun to watch people get pied. I mean, I was a young adult, and I was like, you know, I'm not going to laugh at any of this. But every time somebody got pied, you cannot not laugh.
No, it's one of the surefire methods.
It's amazing,
Yeah.
and so much fun. Aaron Shore, who is one of the writers now of The Office, and he was one of the writers on Everybody Loves Raymond for a while. Aaron was on that show. We had a contortionist we were doing a hidden camera piece at Ripley's Believe It or Not Museum. And the contortionist got arrested the night before.
Did he?
The shoot. We had a gag set up where the contortionist would be posing as a wax figure, and then he'd change his pose when the people looked away. He got busted the night before for, I don't know, some kind of a domestic dispute.
Inappropriate pose?
Yeah, inappropriate behavior. And so our talent booker, Michael Rayner, the world famous juggler Michael Rayner, Michael C. Rayner.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, Michael C. Rayner. He calls up his buddy Aaron from SAC Theater, which was like the place where Wayne Brady got his start in Orlando. And he's like, Aaron, we need you to be a contortionist. Can you be a contortionist? He's like, yeah, sure, no problem. And he pulled it off, and now he's writing on The Office.
Holy crap.
But
I wonder if that's on his resume.
I bet it's right up the top. I'm
Aaron,
sure.
it says here you were a contortionist at one point. What makes you think you could be a writer on The Office? That's an interesting sidebar. I wonder if one of my crew could get arrested the night before and not show up. That'd be something to look
Mike
forward
Rodman
to.
would be at top on my list.
Right?
That would be, yeah. Mike arrested the night before for indecent
agitation.
podcasting.
There we go. Indecent streaming. So from Nickelodeon, is it a long bridge from there to the Spark Factory?
Well, yeah, yes, it was. Yes,
Yeah.
it was. I did another stint. I went back to Disney and worked on more stuff. Anything that would come through. You know, one day you'd be working on a Macy's Christmas catalog. The next day you'd be working on a Christmas parade.
Wow.
But it took a while to get from Florida to Los Angeles, and working at that channel that the Mouse has. I forgot what it's called, but something along the same lines. And all of a sudden I became the expert on theme parks.
Is that?
And so I would get sent to Florida to do, to write, produce, direct, and then post-edit some project on whatever the new attraction was.
So you got out to California only to be sent back.
But it was much better being sent back. It was
Sure.
a major ego trip to
Yeah.
be like the LA guy, you know, and have somebody pick me up at the airport. I had a driver. We had a car pass where we could go anywhere on property.
Holy crap.
And that was fun.
And you would see people that you knew from not too long before.
I still go back now, and I will see people that I worked with in college that are still, how many in your party? Oh, front seat. How many in your party? Back seat. Yeah, they're
Wow.
still there.
Wow. Lifers.
Well, that's
Lifers.
because they like cap out at so much. They're probably getting paid like $20 an hour to do that. You know, it's like, who wouldn't want to get paid $20 an hour to be like to work the rock and roller coaster?
Yeah, and also not, you know, it's easy for those of us who have ambition in our DNA to think that everyone must have ambition beyond that life. And it's interesting to see how happy those people can actually be.
Well, there's some people that are happy being miserable too.
Then there's those people.
Yeah. I miss it. I miss that, being able to go anywhere in the park. I mean, there were definitely times where I'd be working on a special event and I'd have a special pass to drive anywhere, and I would use that to my advantage and take a young lady into the park.
I see. And special trips on the train?
Treehouse, Haunted Mansion, Cinderella's Castle.
What is the best?
Before there was a hotel suite there. That was...
Oh, yeah?
That was a nice place
Before
to visit.
there was a hotel suite, you had made your own nest?
No, just visited, just walked.
Sure,
nothing inappropriate.
A tour?
Never anything inappropriate.
What was the best makeout spot, though, on property?
I was always a big fan of the top of the Contemporary Hotel, because you could see the park from there.
Uh-huh.
That was
If you could
nice.
get someone up there.
It was called Top of the World. They had a bar up there.
Oh.
Yeah, Top of the World.
I
don't know
remember
if
when
it's still
they
there.
had a burlesque, almost like burlesque show up there. I remember.
Burlesque.
They did.
Like that. There you
Yeah.
go.
Burlesque on property must have been really risque.
It was. I remember the show.
Was there anything happening of a sexual nature? Hey, what do you got there? What are those bloomers?
I was so young.
Put those away. So you're going out to California, then you're going back as a big shot, but you're following. What is the present goal at that point in your mind in terms of what you're going to be doing? Is it just with the visions of creating and producing television or films?
You know, it's so easy to get sidetracked in
That's all we do.
entertainment.
That's all we do is get
It's
sidetracked.
just so easy to get
Yeah.
sidetracked.
Also, you realize you have to keep all these plates spinning.
Yeah.
So you don't even think of it as being sidetracked. You just have to keep diversifying.
You usually take the path of least resistance, and it's like, oh, well, they want to hire me to write, produce, and direct. Why wouldn't I do that? That's
Right.
what I want to do.
Right.
But then you come to realize that you're doing disposable programming.
Right.
You're doing promos for things that get seen, for a week, and then they're gone, and they're never seen again. And so that creating original content, I mean, I was interested in television, but, people think television is easier to get into than film. And it's not, because there's hundreds of millions of dollars of advertising to get a TV show up and running, whereas a film, you can make a film. Guy that used to work for me, he made a film for, a couple $100,000, got it into Sundance, sold it to Focus Features for $2 million. A film called Brick.
Wow.
I mean, that happens.
Yeah.
But it's easy to lose focus, especially when you're plagued with ideas.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's like, for so often, for so long, I couldn't afford those ideas.
Right.
Feature film, well, I'm not going to be doing a TV show. I'm not going to be doing that. But eventually the internet came along, and that was exciting, to be able to have an idea and just go do it.
Right.
And then have more people see it than any independent film,
But when you came to that table, it didn't really exist. I mean, there were a couple of people who we're talking about the late 90s.
Late 90s. I mean, the Blair Witch guys had really, opened the door for us in terms of the website that they built to promote their movie and to get their movie off the ground. That really opened up a whole new way to tell stories online.
But even so, you're 100% right, but there were very few people like yourself who that's what they saw when the Blair Witch came out. To a lot of people, it represented a new way to market a movie, not a new way to attract an audience online. Everyone was thinking about a bigger picture, or so they thought, in traditional media. So I don't think as many people like yourself saw this as, well, this is a game changer online. Well, but clearly it was, looking back on it.
Sure.
So you were there at the time saying this is a game changer.
The first thing that I did on the internet after having an American Online account, an American Online email, I built...
America Online?
Yeah. It was this thing back in the 90s, I don't know.
Oh, that thing that brought down the Time Warner Company.
That was it. That was it. I saw the Blair Witch and I was like, this is a new way to tell a story. this is like a book. This is like a film. This is like a TV show. This is a new palette. There's this interactivity here that people can do things, and I don't mean a choose your own adventure type thing. I mean more of a chest of drawers, go explore something, and that was exciting to me. Seeing that really opened my eyes. Unfortunately, at that time, the video was postage stamp sized and pretty hard to go anywhere with it.
Yeah, well, that was the thing. Is this what gave way to For the Love of Julie?
Yeah. So the first project that I did, I built a website that appeared to be set up by a guy who had fallen madly in love with a girl that walked into his video store. He built an online shrine to her. He password protected it, and these other guys hacked in. And at that point, a lot of people came to the site and saw how he was stalking her and keeping an online journal with photos and video and text and all kinds of love poems and things like that. And a lot of people came to the site, including the LAPD, the Santa Monica PD, and
LA County Sheriff.
Ever so lovely LA County Sheriff's Department.
They really are a sweet bunch of guys.
They're nice guys. But after sorting all that out, instead of winding up in jail, I wound up with Michael Ovitz' company, AMG, repping me, and had meetings all over Hollywood.
Yeah.
And it looked like, okay, something's going to come out of this. It felt good. It was like, okay, this is it. I'm going to make it. I have created something new, and I'm going to make a living telling these new kinds of stories.
Let's not. I'm going to have to spend a little more time on the fortheloveofjulie.com.
It's gone.
I know it is. But I mean, in terms of what you saw with the Blair Witch and being able to turn that into original content online, you had to create your own storyline of the video store clerk, the people who hacked into that guy's website. This was all designed and created by you. So how did you go about, because viral video wasn't even much of a term at that point.
It didn't exist at that point.
It didn't exist. So how did you think you were going to reach people with this? What was your original notions on marketing?
Well, at that time, there was so little competition on the internet.
Right.
That if you had something that was emotionally engaging, it got passed around. People started talking about it. And what we did, we built the website, and then we went to Sundance. And at Sundance, everyone was talking about Atom Films. And I thought Atom Films was a great idea. It was really great for distribution. It was a horrible user experience because you had to wait for the videos to download, and they would just take forever and ever and ever. And so while we were at Sundance and everyone was talking about Atom Films, we were like, hey, did you guys see that creepy website where they this guy's stalking the girl? And they're like, no. And we just started spreading it throughout Sundance.
You did a scene from the movie The Player, basically. And through conversations and lunches and networking, just dropped.
We didn't take credit for it. It was just there were
you weren't letting
three of
anyone
us.
know that you did it. You just let people know that you saw it.
Yeah.
Have you seen this? Have you seen this? That's how it started.
Yeah,
that
that's how
was
it started.
The initial marketing campaign.
Don't take credit for it.
Right.
You know, one of the things that I learned when I was at the WB working with Doug Benson and Andy Kindler, these two guys ran the place, Bob and Lou. And Bob kind of looked like Liam Neeson, and Lou looked like Johnny from The Sopranos, the New York boss. I can't think of the actor's name right now, but those two guys ran this place crazy. I mean, they loved to work till 2, 3 in the morning. And the thing that I took away from working with those guys were never say it's cool. Never say it's cool. Never say anything that you do is cool until somebody else says it.
Quote them.
And then quote them and shout it from the mountaintops.
Right.
And so that was a big learning curve, and knowing that.
That was the hardest lesson for me initially. Not that phrase, isn't this cool, but just don't try to bring attention to what you're doing online. Don't be the first to shine light on it. Put it out there, and then the first person who writes a sentence about it, you want to retweet the fuck out of that, for sure.
It's, it's a lot like a cocktail party. You can't walk into a cocktail party and go, here's my card.
You hear that, Negrin?
You have to listen first. You come to that cocktail party, you listen to the conversation, you listen to what's going on, and if you have something that is valuable, that's going to advance the story without drawing attention to yourself, put that in. Carry the conversation further. Don't bring attention to yourself. And then once you're accepted, then you can start mentioning things that you're doing. But you have to be accepted into that circle before you do.
Yeah. It is a hard lesson out here to realize that you need to be asked. You don't want to think in terms of don't speak until you're spoken to. But if you can wait for someone to say, and what do you do? Boy, what an advantage you have in that particular conversation.
And it's hard.
It's really hard. Because
really hard.
When you first get to this godforsaken shithole known as Los Angeles, the sense is, boy, no one gives a shit that I'm here. I mean, no one. So unless I start telling people, hey, over here, over here, over here, how are they ever going to know I'm even in the room? So what a hard lesson that is, honestly.
Well, telling people you just got to town. That's news to you
Sure.
that you care about. Nobody else cares about it.
Yeah, you might as well just say, I just fell off the turnip truck. Did you see it leaving?
Yeah, you just need to shut up.
Yeah.
And pretend like you've been here all along.
Right.
Nobody needs to know that you just got here.
In fact, that's the last thing you want them to know.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so you literally put this site out there. You dropped some shit at Sundance, and is it one of those things where that's all it took initially, and these people ran with the baton?
I think there was a little bit more just in terms of, sending out an email here or an email there and that type of thing. But
Because that really is the question to this day, because people are inventing new ways to market online. It's one of the exciting things. It's also one of the debilitating aspects, because there is no correct path. There is no, well, here's the 7 ways you can do it.
And it changes.
It changes every week.
It changes.
Well, the great part of that is you get to invent a method. If you can come up with a great one, have at it. That's the good news. And again, the bad news is we're all like, well, how did you do it? And there's a certain allowance of networking and socializing in terms of sharing this information. And then there's a whole lot of tight lips, closed mouths, and well, look, it worked for me. I don't know if it's going to work for you, kind of thing. So again, I don't want to keep stressing this, but there's a sense in putting together your dossier, Mr. Street, if that's your real name, that you were so early at this. We were chatting briefly beforehand, and I said your problem was you were 10 years too early in terms of some of the purse strings that might be loosening these days, or were about to be. That story's been going on for 10 years, I'm sure, for you. We're so close to be able to, and for many of us who are very new at this, in my case less than 2 years, it was a year ago that I was being told, not so gently, that you watch by the end of 2010, or beginning of 2011, which I'm thinking is 2012, there will be TVs where the internet's built into the remote, where you can pull up links on your big screen, plasma, or what have you, through your remote. And through the remote versus that awful keyboard that never worked, seemed like the big game changer to so many people. Apple TV stepped up and reinvented itself. Google TV is seconds away from exploding on the scene. And now, sure enough, 3 weeks ago, I see the first commercial for a new Samsung television. It's a Best Buy commercial, that they're selling this TV, and there's a salesman standing there in his uniform, and he's saying to the kid, you bet you're on the Twitter, right? Let's check it out. And then now they're pushing it. There's a TV now that has the internet through the remote. Your feelings, sir?
We're there.
Yeah.
It's happening now.
Yeah.
Whether or not people buy those TVs is yet to be seen. I mean, we'll find out this Christmas.
Well, let me ask you. I'm sorry, I cut you off after asking a question. That's ridiculous. But one of the things I do want to touch on before I forget, which is my reason for shouting and interrupting, is this whole generation that's choosing an internet bill over a cable bill. And to those people, if they can really pull up the internet through their remote, then they less and less need their cable.
Sure. I think what we're seeing happening right now is that your phone and your tablet are going to be your those are going to be your clicker. You know, that's your remote, because you always have your phone with you. You're rarely looking for your phone. I mean, it does happen, but there's even a way now to find your phone. If you lose it, you can find out where it is. And I think that's what we're going to see. I also think that we're going to see programming that, like the way that you used to surf TV to find programming, you're going to surf your tablet or your phone to find the programming. You're going to find it there and then send it to your TV to watch. And then you're going to interact with your phone and your tablet with programming that's online.
So now is not the time to get into the remote control business.
Definitely not the time to get into the remote control business
Damn it.
at all.
I just invested in this huge stockpile.
Maybe a remote control app that you're going to sell, both Android and iPhone and BlackBerry whenever they get their video play together. But
yeah, because someone was just telling me, as I've been putting off the iPad as long as possible, and they were saying, well, do you have a Sonos or similar system in your home? And I said, well, I'm about to install one, because they were kind enough to send one. Thank you. He said, well, then your iPad will be your remote. You'll literally program everything through that.
Yeah. If you go back and you look at the early days of television, we were taking radio. I wasn't born. We took radio. They took radio and put it on television. People were standing in front of microphones doing radio shows on TV.
Right.
Right now, we're on the internet, broadcasting live, podcasting live, and we're basically doing a TV show on the internet. Yes, there is interactivity, but it's very nascent. I mean, it's very early days in terms of what the formats are going to be. I mean, you look at those early days of TV, it wasn't until Desi Arnaz created a multi-camera sitcom called I Love Lucy that we had a multi-camera sitcom format. And so we're going through that right now. And from the time a first TV show aired until there was a regularly scheduled and sponsored TV show was 25 years. 25 years.
No shit.
Yeah. So
now I'm 10 years too early.
There you go. I think things are happening faster now.
Sure.
But it really boils down to where the money's coming from. And there are not budgets right now to sponsor interactive TV shows or interactive web series. That doesn't exist as a line item on it. There's experimental dollars, but there are definitely TV spends, there are still newspaper spends, there are still radio spends. And it's going to take a little while for that big aircraft carrier called advertising to make a turn, whereas, you know, as an independent, we're speedboats.
Well, do you think the big hurdle is numbers, presenting them with Nielsen-like numbers? Is that what ultimately is all it takes to turn this boat around?
No, there are going to have to be business models for trusted companies. And they've got to be able to move into this new space without totally cannibalizing their old space.
Right.
And it'll be interesting to see how they do that. I mean, you look at Blockbuster, right? Blockbuster was it 10 years ago. And in less than 10 years, Netflix came in and Blockbuster has filed for bankruptcy. Now, Blockbuster could have done that. They could have been the Netflix,
right,
but they didn't want to cannibalize their store business. Then you look at Apple, right? Apple wasn't in the music business. They got into it. Apple wasn't in the mobile phone business. They got into it.
Right.
And so instead of cannibalizing their old business, they opened up new silos and have really, you know, gone from $19 a share to $270, $280 a share.
Right.
It's crazy.
Yeah. And yet, you're not allowed to charge for a podcast on iTunes.
That's
and
a whole nother story.
Well, you had to deal with that at some point, right? We're going to jump around a little bit. Why not? The LA podcast, is that what it was? LA Podcasters.
I got involved with LA Podcasters. I did.
But prior to that, you had.
Well, I was doing these different projects for studios and networks. I mean, after I did For the Love of Julie, I kept trying to do other interactive stories and figure out a way to monetize original content. And I couldn't. The only thing I could do is I would get a call from the studio. They're like, hey, we're doing the VOD release of Fight Club. Can you build us a creepy website that's called whoistylerdurden.com?
Right, his
Great.
diary or something.
Okay, great. So I built that. ABC would have a show with John Cryer. They're like, we got this new show with John Cryer. He's paranoid. Can you do something paranoid on the internet? Okay, great. And I would make money doing that, but it wasn't original content. And it was always an afterthought. There was never anything that was done with the website or the interactive component thought out ahead of time. And I tried and tried and tried. And one day about 5 o'clock on a Friday, I got a call from Spike TV. And they were like, hey, can you shoot something for us tomorrow? And I was like, it's 5 o'clock on a Friday. I was thinking maybe it was like a red carpet event. They just wanted me to send a crew to, get the stars going down the red carpet. And I was like, well, what do you want? They're like, we want you to shoot a bunch of hot girls in lingerie reading cheat codes to video games for the Video Game Awards. I was like, okay, where are we shooting? Well, we were hoping you could find a place. Okay. Who are the girls? Well, we were hoping you could find some girls. Do you guys have the cheat codes? Yeah, we'll get you the cheat codes. So the next day, we're building a set in my office, and we're casting the girls, and they're just like stripping down, changing right into their lingerie right there. Like we had a place for them to, boom, they're just, sound guy looks at me and goes, this is the best shoot I've ever been on in my life.
You're his hero.
And I was like, there's something here, there's something more here in terms of this. And I started thinking about it for a little bit. And I came up with this wacky idea where these girls would be like dressed as French maids, and they'd explain how to do things.
How-to videos.
How-to videos. And I mentioned that to the guys at Spike, and they're like, yeah, whatever, not really interested. So I kind of shelved it for a little bit. And then I started looking online to see what else was out there. And there were different video properties that were out there. There was one called Rocket Boom that was out there. It was like a daily news show, kind of interesting. And then there was this other one that was perfect for what I wanted to do, because I wanted to put sponsors into these how-tos. And this show that I came across was a show called Tiki Bar TV. And it had these people making cocktails and just being silly and crazy. And it was a cocktail recipe show. And I was like, it's perfect for sponsorship. Think of all the different brands of alcohol and mixers that would love to sponsor something like this. So I contacted those guys, and I tried to work out a deal with them, and it fell apart because there was a guy, one of the founders of MySpace, decided to invest in them, and I couldn't compete with that. Right. So I was a little bit upset about that and a little steamed, and I went to the Podcast New Media Expo and listened to Leo Laporte, the radio host, who was into audio podcasting at that time, and he was talking about all the things that he saw happening in podcasting and how podcasting was going to be monetized. And I was like, wow, that's this guy. That's what I wanted to do with Tiki Bar. And during that time, there was an episode of Tiki Bar where they said, curse the French, curse the French. And that just kept ringing in my head while I'm listening to Leo Laporte talk. And I walked out of there going, French-made TV, I need to do that. And so 3 weeks later, I think it was November 4th, 2005, I shot the first episode of French-made TV.
And how was the process of bringing a sponsor into the first one when it didn't actually exist prior?
Didn't happen.
So you had them do a how-to video with no sponsor, just how to...
I did a how-to video podcast.
Right.
Because at that point we knew that the video iPod was coming out, and thought people want to learn how to do this, why not make a video about it?
So the first how-to is how to make a video podcast.
And no sponsors. Nobody people thought it was sponsored by Apple.
Right.
They didn't think that there were sponsorship opportunities, so it was
And
like
somebody at Apple said, how much are we paying for this?
I don't think so. So I did another one. I did how to give CPR. I thought, I'll do one that I'm not going to burn a sponsor on. And, it took about a month to get listed on the iTunes store. And 3 days later, we were #1.
Holy crap.
And that felt pretty good.
Yeah, it did.
That was a rocking good time, but still no money.
Right.
And so then I started looking around at what other people were doing, and Alex Albrecht and Kevin Rose were doing Dignation, and they had a sponsor called Barterbee. And so I contacted those guys and said, hey, what if we did an episode, How to Barter Online? And they were like, cool, great. We're not going to give you money up front, but we'll give you money on the back end. I was like, okay.
The back end meaning per views?
Per sign up.
Per sign up.
So for everybody sent them, I think we might have got like $2
Right.
for every sign up. And eventually that episode paid for itself.
Right.
And podcasting was taking off. And then after that one came out, that's when I started having sponsors approach me. And I had to learn a whole new business, a whole new language of media kits, and there wasn't any book or manual to follow on this. So
Which you've of course written since then.
Absolutely, and it's available on No, I haven't written it yet.
Why not? Too busy.
It's not my thing. I mean, I may do it someday, but my passion isn't writing a book. I mean, I enjoy making video product.
No, of course, but you've actually, with a machete in each hand, found the ground that a lot of us, thousands between you and I, leading up to even me jumping in, stand on that ground and are wondering still to this day, how did anyone else do this? And I just think there's a wealth of information that you may or may not want to share, but if you were of mind,
I do
because I know you do.
I blog about it.
You blog about it, and we met on a panel, and you were sharing it at will, and all it was really was sharing your experiences, as you're doing right now. I would encourage you, sir. I believe there are several books in you on the subject, and millions who want this information. There, I said it. And now we go to the phones. Wait, we don't have phones. But what we do have is a live audience. And I've got a Tweet 5 for you, sir. If only we had a graphic starring Dave Keckner. Did he work on one of your shows, Dave Keckner?
I think we played golf once.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I like that. Are you familiar with the Tweet 5? It's a rapid fire with this or that, Coke or Pepsi type thing.
And we'll give it a shot.
No correct answer. Keenan or Kel?
Kel.
What would you do, or all that?
All that.
Cake or ice cream?
Ice cream.
Chainsaw or hatchet?
Hatchet.
Regular QWERTY or ergonomic keyboard?
QWERTY.
Very well done.
Keenan worked on all that and went on to Saturday Night Live.
So wonderful on the
and
show.
a lot of the people that were in Orlando somehow wound up on Saturday Night Live, whether they had worked on Remote Control, which at that time shot in Orlando, or were at Nickelodeon, or even like Daryl Hammond. Daryl Hammond worked in Orlando. And
No, he didn't.
Yeah.
Doing what?
He was in commercials that I used to produce for people to come to Disney World.
Seriously?
Yeah, he would play like the dad.
Did we know this, too?
He was also, Daryl Hammond was also the warm-up guy for Remote Control, and he got fired. He was replaced by Philip Moore.
The Phil Moore?
Phil Moore, yeah. And Daryl was a funny guy, but he had this cerebral routine that was not audience warm-up material. And so he would throw out this stuff that you had to think about. And the producers were all like,
I think he said Kierkegaard.
What is he doing? What is he doing? He's making them think. We don't want them to think.
Yeah.
We just want them to laugh and cheer.
And be silly and have balloons.
Yeah.
Oh, God. All right. You did so well on that one, which, by the way, came from Sketchball Ed, at Sketchball Ed. This one comes to us, this Tweet 5 comes to you from at Jim_Patrick. There he is. Bring it home. Come on. Social media or digital video?
Digital video.
ADM or LA podcasters? See?
LA podcasters.
See what he did? Disney or Nickelodeon?
Disney.
Thank you. iWeb or Dreamweaver?
I can't.
Well, all right,
I
we're going to have, apparently a Sophie's Choice has been offered up, and he can't make the jump. All right, the last one to get you out of it, consulting or selling. Aha.
Yeah, again.
This person knows you and knows how to crawl inside there.
Yeah, absolutely.
At Jim_Patrick.
Selling.
So why so tough on the iWeb or the Dreamweaver?
iWeb is a fantastic program that is so simple to use. It's if you're familiar with PowerPoint, it's like using PowerPoint to create a website, and you design it and program it at the same time.
Is this something that you and others came up with?
No, this is an Apple product.
I see.
So it's available, I think it's part of either iWork or iLife, one of those two product suites.
I think it's the iLife, yeah. You're right.
And it's amazingly powerful software for building websites. If I could combine it with what WordPress does, that would be a fantastic product. WordPress is a little bit harder to set up, but easier to use in terms of updating, and more powerful when it comes to search engines. So combining those two would be awesome.
And so why don't you?
Not my passion. I got to be careful. I'm plagued with ideas.
Yeah, clearly. Too many plates. Some are crashing.
Too many plates. And some's okay to crash, right?
And the Dreamweaver?
Dreamweaver is a powerful tool for a lot of people, but it requires a larger skill set. So I personally don't use Dreamweaver, but I think it's a very valuable tool.
So valuable, in fact, it was impossible for you to choose between that and iWeb.
Yeah. If you have a staff of people that are making websites, you want them on Dreamweaver.
Do you hear that, everyone? That's what you do, rather, with your staff, is to put them on the Dreamweaver. If it's true, and Andy Warhol was close, that in the future everyone will have their own podcast for 15 minutes, how soon before the more popular podcasts are able to charge on iTunes? We've been talking about it a little bit on this show as of late. We're trying to help break some ground in that area ourselves, but again, I can't imagine we're alone. There must be other machete-wielding people out there. How long have you, what walls have you come up against? And so
we thought with the launch of the video iPod back in 2005, we thought that was going to be it, that we would be able to sell podcasts at that time. And that conversation has happened at the New Media Expo, which now is joined with Blog World, which is going on in Las Vegas next week. And if you really know a little about this environment and want to learn a lot about it, I would highly recommend going to Blog World next weekend in Las Vegas.
We were there last year. Kenny got into a dance-off.
Yes.
Which you witnessed and I did not.
No, you missed
And
out.
Kenny smoked this guy, right? And a couple of Michael
He threw him
Jackson
down
moves.
in the middle of Caesars.
It was embarrassing. This kid had no chance.
It was amazing.
We did enjoy ourselves at the Blog World. Right, skirt steak?
Aqua skirt.
What was Rotman's? Rotman had the
Rotman was mocktails.
mocktails. We all had nicknames from our trip to
I was
Blog World
8-bit.
last year.
There you go.
J-Mac was wild card.
J-Mac was.
You never knew what he was up to.
In terms of being able to sell podcasts on iTunes, I don't know if that will happen on an individual level, but I think it's possible right now. There are some different aggregators that you know are basically music indie labels.
Right.
That
That's the route we're being told to take.
Yeah. If they like your stuff,
Right.
again, another gatekeeper, if they like your stuff, you can sell there. Now, there are other people that I know that have set up things through PayPal where they sell their podcasts through PayPal, and they will use iTunes as a preview
Sure.
area, get them hooked on the content, and then sell it to them away from school.
Right. Yeah, now that was the first and obvious path, which is to leave the frame.
Yeah.
And I've just been determined
Now, the other way to do it
to not leave the frame.
is a little more expensive, but highly doable, and probably a better user experience for your users, and that's to create an app.
Right.
But the app can't just be a podcast. It has to have some other things in it. They don't say what those other things are, but it's a $99 entry fee that you can sign up to be an Apple iPhone developer.
Yeah.
Not a problem. Then you have to have somebody make it for you. Unfortunately, at this point in time, iWeb does not make iPhone apps, but it sure feels like it could.
Right.
And then you have to submit and hope that it gets approved.
Yeah, I'm not keen on the app wrap.
And why is that?
Simply because I think iTunes is available on more systems than the apps are. Mathematically speaking, you're narrowing your field at present.
Okay. So if you open up your iTunes, it has both the App Store and the iTunes Store in it
Yes.
as one.
Yes.
They are there.
Right.
So if you used iTunes to educate people about your show and that you had an app available with much more interesting and entertaining things.
Oh, they could easily get to the app?
Yeah.
Right.
And if they're carrying one device in which they consume both their podcasts and their apps, say an iPod Touch or an iPhone, I mean, sure, you are leaving off the table the people that listen to the show while they're running or working out at the gym.
To be honest with you, our numbers went crazy as excited as we are. There's another one down here. As excited as we are with being the 2010 Streaming Award winning best web production video, it was the explosion of the audio-only downloads and those numbers that is driving the current interest to... I was telling you this off air. First, in stand-up comedy, when I started many years ago, and it still exists to this day, you get on stage to see if anyone cares, if you're any good at it. If you're good enough, you earn an audience. And if you earn enough of an audience, you get to earn a living. And I think that that should hold true because the audience, quite frankly, as much as we all think we want free, we don't want value less. And we subconsciously want to pay to go see an artist perform live. We want to, we have been convinced by HBO that they're better than TV because we're paying for it. And I think that it's an organic and natural evolution to the entertainment, talent, and audience relationship. I'm convinced of it because I've been living it for 30 years. And it does exist in new media. As you said, there are many people who are offering up a preview. I mean, Ricky Gervais, the 200 million download king of all podcasts, led the way and gave everything away for free initially, got everyone around the world. I mean, he's clearly the model. The rest of us are like, well, why can't I do that? I found audiobooks to be a little much in terms of Audible, in terms of what they needed. So my question now to you, sir, is while we wait for iTunes to play catch-up or continue to offer the indie music route for very few, because I don't think only the so-called famous should be able to access this. And when I sat with a couple of folk over there, I said, you know, you're leaving me no choice but to go out and create the portal myself, to go out and hire the right people who can build this home for all podcasters to come to, for everyone to be able to join in the subscription model and what have you. I don't, you know, you've got all these people, this wonderful audience, and 500,000 on a monthly basis now are finding our show and choosing to download it. And it is those people at the gym. It is those people that work with the thing, and they're not going to get busted while they're at work because nobody knows what they're listening to. And they write to me on Twitter and email saying, my boss doesn't know why I'm laughing. It is those people who are coming in the millions and millions to this place. And I don't believe it's just because it's free. I can't believe it. I refuse to believe it.
Well, back around the time that you won your 2010 Streamy Award, one of my sponsors came to me and offered me a day job. And they explained what they did and what they wanted me to do, and I was kind of like, well, this is kind of the area that, and then they showed me a number, and I was like, well, maybe I should really consider this. So now I'm Vice President of Mobile Video for M-Dialogue, Canadian company, and what M-Dialogue is doing right now is enabling larger publishers, just because when you roll out a product, sometimes you got to start with a small group of people that have money and then roll it out later for the masses. But what we're doing is we're enabling big companies to do pre-rolls, multi-mid-rolls, geo-targeted interactive overlays on their video. And then we're also enabling them to sell content inside their apps as well. And right now, it's not a solution for what you're talking about. A couple years from now, possibly a solution.
Well, the evolution of that very thing is kind of what I'm attempting to describe with my pedestrian awareness.
And there are people out there that have gone down this path 3-5 years ago and tried to build these places, and they didn't succeed because it's still not easy.
Right.
You know, podcasting is not easy for consumers, and that's a hurdle that we have with all of this over-the-top content, where it doesn't come through a cable content provider, it doesn't come through a radio station, it doesn't come through a broadcaster, is right now you can't just turn on your TV and get a podcast. You can't just turn on your computer and get a podcast. You've got to go find it, you've got to click a button, and there's weird terms like podcast and subscribe. Those are scary, scary words to people that aren't technical in any way. And we messed it up. You know, we shouldn't have called it podcasting. We should have called it, you know, automatic download or something like that. Something that was, I'm going to get an automatic download. That just sounds so much friendlier. I don't know if we'll ever recover from that. You still see, you know, netcasting versus podcasting. Like a lot of companies who aren't very friendly with Apple say netcasting. And also Leo Laporte, who is very friendly with Apple, he says netcasting as well. Right.
Yeah. You do need to give it the right name, without question. A lot of people, when they find out what I'm doing, say, how's that radio show going that you're doing?
Yeah.
It is the education that's a big part of it, in terms of awareness and in terms of constantly creating a new audience and nurturing them to the table. So tell me more actually about the this new day job of yours, in terms of what sort of evolution we can expect to.
Well, I mean, one of the conditions of me taking the job was that I would still be allowed to work on my own projects as long as they weren't for competitors. And so that includes consulting for other people, but also creating new web series and hopefully new interactive series. I mean, I look at what has been done in the world of ARGs, alternate reality games, and for the most part, they're marketing devices to get people to go to movies or watch new TV shows, and they have an expiration date. And for me, that area of playing with all the landscape, to where you could put an ad in a newspaper or a magazine to drive somebody, create a rabbit hole at a bus stop and get them to come into your story and have that story be immersive and interactive and have a linear component but also have an interactive component that's evergreen, that can be enjoyed the way that a great movie on DVD can be enjoyed. That's where my head's at. And when I first saw what was happening with the iPad and the iPhone, that's where my head went. Because I did, after I did For the Love of Julie, I did another website that was called I Can Still Tell Your Wife Bill.
Right.
And it was a website that appeared to be set up by a woman who was getting revenge on her married ex-lover.
Mm-hmm.
And she was posting videos of him cheating on her. And it got a lot of traffic. I had to shut it down. I couldn't afford the bandwidth. But I tried to build a DVD out of it. And it was horrible. DVD, the latency, it wasn't the same immersive experience
Right.
of being on the internet. And when I look at the iPad and I see the interactivity of an app, I see that as a new storytelling device. And I haven't really come across a full-blown one yet that really does that. And I've learned I don't want to be the first anymore.
You're waiting for someone else with a machete?
Yeah, I'm waiting for someone else who's, first guy, you don't get to the castle.
Right.
Or you might get to the wall, but you get an arrow in the back.
Give him hell 54 is what we like to call it for
Yeah.
most of us.
Yeah, so it's tough because right now I'm kind of sitting on my hands learning. And I'm getting paid to learn, and I'm meeting a lot of studio folks. I'm meeting a lot of network folks, and I'm looking at what the potential is in this new interactive space for new formats.
Well, getting back to something we talked about earlier about the companies, the large companies, your Procter & Gamble's, who spend upwards of, I don't know, 50 million, 100 million a year in advertising. And they've earmarked X amount of dollars for television and radio, and there's a guy in there with a new media pitch. And I asked earlier if it was how we're going to devise a Nielsen-type ratings numbers delivered to these people, because while, yes, they can't burn out the relationships they have with the juggernaut that still is television, they need to factor in at some point the future. That's
Sure.
how these businesses thrive decade after decade. And there has to be young executives that are insisting, look, you're spending $100 million a year on advertising. I'm asking for $6 million. That's all I need. I've earmarked it at a half dozen different places where we're going to pick up, here's the numbers we're going to get. This guy says he's getting 1 million downloads a week. His name is Adam Carolla.
That's happening. There are a lot of things working against that. One of the things is not before I retire. A lot of executives don't want to change things before they get out of there. They don't want to screw up their retirement. That's a big factor.
Is that really huge?
That is a big factor. Another factor is, as new media, we can't put butts in theater seats this Friday. We can't do that yet. And until we can prove that we can motivate people and get them into a space and make them spend money, the advertisers aren't going to come jumping over here until that happens on a big level.
Well, what are the advertising, or what are the companies, the actual companies that are spending the ad dollars, what are they finding from banners? They must find some result.
Banners exist in a branding standpoint, but display, depending on who you talk to, display's dead. What was the last website that you went to?
Me?
Yeah.
The very last website was probably actually a movie search.
And what was the ad?
Oh, I couldn't ignore the ads more. I mean, it's impossible for me.
You've tuned them out.
I refuse.
Yeah, you've tuned them out. And so is everyone else.
Yeah.
And so those people are still spending money, and that's almost a traditional new media spend or a traditional digital spend. And there's millions being spent there, but we've learned to tune them out.
Right.
There are certain things
But you could make the same argument for modern day television.
You could, except it's still...
I mean, how are they dealing with the DVR?
But yet, you can still advertise and get people to do something and see a result. That is changing. You know, a lot of people argue that that started changing in '05.
Right.
But it's still there, and it's hard to get fired for doing what you've been doing for the last 50 years.
Impossible to get fired.
So there's a lot of stuff that has to happen, and we need to see that watershed moment. I mean, in our community, in terms of the creator community, we have our heroes. We have the Felicia Days, you know, who Felicia has created the Guild, and she's sponsored, sponsored by Microsoft and Sprint, and she's doing well with that. But yet, the Guild is not a household name. People, you know, they've heard of YouTube, but they haven't heard of the Guild. They've heard of YouTube, but they haven't heard of Lonely Girl. You say Lonely Girl to somebody out on the street, they think you're talking about a porn. It's not.
That's Lonely Girls, by the way.
Yes,
the porn version.
Yeah.
Lonely Girls.
So, you know, there have been a lot of great creators that are admired within our community that there's a good chance that people listening to this show have never heard of. They don't know the big fantastics that did all this great stuff from Michael Eisner, you know? They don't know about Rocket Boom. They don't know about Steve Garfield, the first video podcaster. So, you know, we've still got a long ways to go.
Right, but you could make the same argument about the indie rock world. There's a great many, I mean, Kings of Leon were around for 5 albums before they hit in a pop chart. And so in that regard, it's just a matter of patience and continuing to sling arrows at the castle.
Well, we also have attention deficit disorder going on right now, where there are so many things vying for our attention that didn't exist before. When we grew up, there were 3 channels, there were 3 networks, and PBS, and that was it. You had no other choices. And now, between Facebook, between YouTube, between text messaging, there's so many things to grab your attention and draw you away. It's hard to create a hit, and it's hard to make a hit.
Have you seen the Facebook movie, The Social Network?
I have not seen that yet, because I did want to see it before I saw America Online, the movie, because I thought that would be important, you know, just in terms of...
Well, let me ask you, Mr. Smarty Pants, because I was convinced. First of all, I'm not on Facebook myself. The show is represented, and our social media expert, Ms. Elaine Ewing, is running a Facebook page for my own damn self as well. But there's a reason I'm not in touch with my people, my friends from high school. I don't want them to find me. However, 5 years ago, it was unimaginable that anyone could knock MySpace out of the business, really. In fact, Mr. Murdoch, if you're watching, nice one, so close. I guess you have to put the sign back at the bottom of the property saying drifters welcome. While I'm watching the Facebook movie, I'm thinking, as entertaining as it is, and wonderful script, and terrific performances, and Fincher's a brilliant filmmaker, oh my God, although I'm hearing 70 takes is too much. I'm wondering immediately, well, there's got to be a new beast around the corner that's going to make Facebook be a dinosaur, right? Because one of the things that kept driving home in the movie was, you don't know when you're done. A company like this can't be done. I was just playing this place in Schaumburg, Illinois, and we drove past the Motorola plant.
Schaumburg.
And my host said, here's another company that didn't keep up with the competition. Here's another company that didn't reinvent itself. Do you remember the first flip phone that fucking Motorola came out with? And we all couldn't believe we had the 9100? I mean, it was as close as you got to being on the Enterprise.
Yeah.
And it was, the bragging rights for having that phone were crazy. They were cell phone. And so, while Facebook is insisting that there is no finish, I couldn't help sitting there and thinking, first of all, when the thing rolls at the end, he's worth $25 billion. And from my naivete, I said to my host, where the hell is this money actually on, other than on paper? And he said, well, I own the comedy club, we have a Facebook account, I pay for a certain number of views. I said, so what is he getting from you on a monthly basis? He says, oh, not that much, it's just really a couple of $100. I said, okay, but if there's 500 million people on Facebook, if he's just getting 500,000 people sending him $200 a month, I think now I realize why he's worth between $4 and $25 billion, depending on who you talk to. So if that model is already built so beautifully, and by the way, you talk about a great title for the book, The Accidental Billionaire, and I'll let you speak in another 5 minutes. Total accidental billionaire, because when he set up the social network, he wasn't even contemplating a guy who owns a comedy club in Schaumburg sending him $200 a month for his audience. It was always about the leads, Glengarry. It was always about the email list. And now it's about the friends. So the model is there. It's a huge, hulking, giant Death Star. And where the fuck is the Rebel Alliance? That's what I want to know.
Well,
how long before Facebook is MySpace?
Well, I was just over at MySpace, and I got a peek at their redesign. And it's gorgeous. It looks a lot like the iPad app called Flipbook. I don't know if you've seen that app. But
I have.
Gorgeous app.
How do they reinvent themselves when no one gives a shit?
Well, people do. People do. MySpace still has a lot of people that use MySpace, and it's very important in the music world.
I don't mean to be so disrespectful.
Yeah.
But from my own personal experience.
In the Cool Kids Club,
Right.
MySpace isn't necessarily the biggest player, but
Cool Kids, by the way, is the same people that created MySpace, or rather their audience, which was 12 to 16-year-olds.
Right. The Cool Kids jump around a lot, and they go on to something new all the time.
Talk about ADD.
Yeah, and they may stick at something for a while. You know, Twitter seems to be holding. You guys are using it right now.
Twitter for me was how I grew tired of MySpace and avoided Facebook. Yes.
You could be using Facebook to do what you're doing, but you're not. So it's really going to depend on how people's tastes change and where they go. And, you know, there's times where you get bored with TV shows and you move on.
MySpace is saying we're going to make another run at this. We've already got the infrastructure. How can we be so they're trying to not be Motorola.
This month, MySpace is relaunching, and it's going to be gorgeous, and it's really music focused, and I think it's going to be something to look at and something to pay attention. Whether or not they'll be able to capture people away from Facebook, I don't know, but they've gone after what makes them different.
Well, kudos to them, 100 zillion% for even making the effort, because again, from an absolute ignorant standpoint, which is your basic C- student that makes up this great country of ours, although I did not vote for Bush either time, like the majority of the C- students. To get people to come back to MySpace seems like a much greater hurdle even than getting them originally, because what I was after in terms of my question of how does Facebook get toppled, it gets toppled by the next, in my ignorant view. I don't know how you get enough people to come back to MySpace to literally topple Facebook.
I think if you were going to take something that didn't exist and topple Facebook, that would be the browser. So if a browser offered you everything that Facebook offered you, I mean, let's just take a look at the history of browsers, you know, in terms of you had Netscape, which was the bomb, right?
Oh, yeah.
Everybody loved Netscape. It was great. It was free. The internet's free. They screwed it for us, all of us. That was Netscape's problem.
Right.
So beyond them, then we went to Internet Explorer. And then after Internet Explorer, you know, Safari, Firefox, Opera. I mean, now there's just a whole plethora of them. What are people using now? Well, it's not Netscape. They're on to the next thing.
That was kind of my point about...
And if that next thing incorporates, if Google Chrome starts to incorporate more of, and it seems to be in terms of if you're using Gmail in Chrome, now you can talk to your friends on the phone using your browser, you know, it starts to morph into Facebook eventually.
Right. And certainly the relaunch for Steve Jobs recently through iTunes, what's it called?
Ping.
Yeah.
Ping. Ping's interesting. It's just not...
Don't you, someone said you had to repurchase your music in order to
I don't know about
interact
that.
with your
That's
opinions?
interesting.
That made no sense at all, but it seemed to be...
It's early days.
Yeah.
It's early days.
Yeah. But it's clearly on these people's minds, and you bring up an interesting point with the search, because, yeah, I mean, if anything that the commercial world has proven, let alone, forget the entertainment world, just the giant conglomerate world, it's no longer important to be the first. It used to be everything. It's the next.
It's moving people.
Yeah.
What can you do to aggregate them and get them to do and spend money?
How much trouble are we in terms of net neutrality and what the cable companies are realizing as perhaps their own Great Wall of China?
As independent content producers, we're in big trouble. It's going to be hard to compete against content that is better produced, better funded, and arrives faster than ours.
That's how they get you?
I think so.
And this move to the television and the internet on the remote only helps them?
Well, there's a big problem there in terms of who's going to pay for that bandwidth. And there's so many different issues that go on. You know, if you're the cable provider versus the telephone provider, and Apple is sending all this content to the home, shouldn't Apple be paying for it? Shouldn't Fox be paying for it? You know, one way or another, the consumer is going to pay for it, and they're going to pay for the brands that they recognize as opposed to the things they've never heard of. So it does create big challenges for us. The telecommunications industry has hired over 200 lobbyists to lobby in Washington so that they can keep the internet free, which means they can do whatever they want, which, you know, it's a valid point. You know, if they've built an infrastructure, shouldn't they be allowed to do on that infrastructure whatever they want in a free country? But in doing so, that could limit us as independent content creators from being able to deliver our content there with the same efficiency as their friends who have paid them money.
Scary.
It changes things. It changes things. I mean, if you look at television, in the 1980s, there used to be a lot more independent television producers. There used to be a lot more independently produced television shows because there were regulations in place for that. In '93, the FinCEN rules were deregulated, and the studios and networks were then allowed to make and distribute their own programming. And so I think now it's something like 85% of all content is created by 5 companies.
Right. Yeah, that didn't change the game at all. Right, sir. From the chat room, at NYActor offers you, sir, another tweet 5.
Ooh.
You're doing okay? We're at 85 minutes. All right?
That's great.
Sexier, Minnie Mouse or Betty White?
Betty White.
Come on, what are we talking about? iPhone or Android?
iPhone.
Disney, buried or frozen?
I've seen his grave.
Have you?
Yes.
Have you seen In It?
No.
All right. Kindle or Nook?
Neither.
Kevin Smith is a better director or podcaster?
Ooh.
He'd probably be happy with either answer,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah. As long as you don't charge him for an extra seat on an airline, you're fine.
Boy, I'm excited to work with him on this Red State, by the way. I'm going to start very, very soon, and I couldn't be more thrilled.
No one cares.
I'm just doing a little ass kissing, honey. Book smart or street smart?
Street smart.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Did you attend university? When did you have time with all the Disney going on?
Yeah, I was going to school in Florida, and then started producing and dropped out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I graduated in 9 months myself. Who's laughing at that? I'm not setting a good example for the kids, for the children.
Go to school.
Yeah, get your ass somewhere near a school. All right, so you've done me and our audience a great service with your experience and your machete path. What is the future? What excites you and your endeavors most at this point in your own immediate future?
I think the most exciting thing for me right now is the potential to have programming show up on the iPad and then be delivered to the TV and be interactive, both on the iPad and on the TV, so that, you know, you take this show, for example, if somebody could be consuming this on their television and their iPad at the same time and sending in questions and being in a chat room.
So the iPad functions as that ultimate remote and keyboard.
And keyboard,
right.
Yeah.
Because that giant keyboard thing they tried 10 years ago, internet on your TV.
Yeah. So imagine if you know, we were, you know, talking about a government regulation, or if we were talking about a TV show and somebody sent us a clip that we could use and be able to incorporate in that show, or they could just share it with the rest of the audience,
right,
without us knowing about it,
right,
or maybe we would know about it. Those formats really have yet to be developed in a way. I mean, you're breaking ground here in terms of what you're doing.
But we're going to need your help, sir, to get onto the iPad.
Oh, do your car need a jump? I'll go. I brought some cables. I got some cables in my car. Yeah, I'm excited about the iPad and all the tablets. I think that's where we're going to see new formats develop, and these new television sets. I mean, there's still going to be that lean back linear experience that we all want, but there are times where you want to lean forward and participate, and I think that's going to be exciting.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm excited for it, and we may have to create a return visit on some sort of regularity to keep people abreast as to, because I honestly and sincerely mean it when I say that I feel as though you were on the forefront 10 years ago and also 10 years too early, and as it all catches up with today, there are still people like yourself who, from this vast experience, have been, have actually been on the front line for 10 years. You're just, you're going to be able to lead more than follow, as much as you'd still would like someone else to do the heavy lifting for you. And I think there's more people dependent on your experience than you even realize.
Guy over at TV Guide gave me a book called The Last Lone Inventor. Philo T. Farnsworth.
Holy shit.
It's the story of his life.
We saw the play that Aaron Sorkin wrote.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Yeah.
That screenplay is based on this book, The Last Lone Inventor. And it's the story of how this kid came up with the idea for television when he was 14 years old while plowing a potato field. And you read that book and you realize that you can be a pioneer and you can invent something and die poor and anonymous. Sometimes you got to slow down a little bit.
Right. Right.
Or you get scalped by the Indians, right?
Yeah, yeah, and not give away all the secrets. I imagine pitching your brilliance to the wrong person leads to.
I'm ready for somebody to steal my ideas.
Well, we're happy to. So
very good.
Please come back and share them ASAP.
Thank you.
You've got just a few more moments to put together your Larry King game as we now approach 95 minutes on the show. In the meantime, I want to thank Zachary, our new best friend, who has a little shop down the coast a bit in Hermosa Beach. It's a lovely pita pit. And Jamie and I found ourselves there, seems like a few months back. We thought we could bike from Venice to Hermosa. And after 12 miles on the one-way trip, we called our friend Travis and said, "You need to come and get us."
We got our pitas, though.
While we were waiting, we stopped in the pita pit, and I mentioned it on the show, and it got back to them, and it made some national convention of pita pit owners. And next thing you know, Zachary in his fine shop there in Hermosa Beach said, "Please let us bring you food on a regular basis." And we said, "God bless you and your wonderful shop." So I want to thank them for providing a wonderful repast today and apparently in the weeks to come. Go to the, how you doing? You ready? Feeling good?
I need you to do the
setup?
Yeah, do the setup.
I will instruct you, sir. We had a t-shirt winner earlier who offered up a Larry King game. Jamie, right across the way there, created the damn thing. Just by doing.
So we have you to thank.
Yeah, we really do. And it's reaching a worldwide audience, strangely enough. And people have asked, Larry's leaving the airways, what are you going to do? And I said, well, the same thing Conan O'Brien has done in the year 2000. It continues to this day. Because the joy of Larry losing his shit live on the air, that's the moment we're looking for everyone to act. So the 3 rules are: bad Larry King impression. Takes all the pressure off. Not looking for a good one. I want a bad Larry King impression. And then you need to act at that moment where Larry shares something, anything really, anything at all about himself, not you, about himself. LeVar Burton, our first guest, thought I wanted something about him, and he shared something that none of us wanted to know about him. We're looking for you to do it about Larry. And then you go to the phone, and if the name of the city is funny sounding, be it Schenectady or Poughkeepsie, these things help. So it's the bad Larry King impression, Larry breaking down on the air, funny sounding city. Those are the 3 goals and achievements we're looking for.
Great.
When you're ready, sir, that would be your lens to stare down and offer up. He's getting into character. I feel it.
Tomorrow night on Larry King Live, former President Bill Clinton speaks out about the tell-all book from Monica Lewinsky and a couple other dames. Kind of reminds me of a time in a dressing room or bathroom stall. I can't remember which. I still have beautiful girl. Oh my God! But I left my radio mic on. Oh God! Let's go to the phone lines. Kissimmee, Florida. You're on the air.
Yeah, that's what we're looking for. Commitment. Stay in the pocket. Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you, sir.
It's actually Kissimmee, Florida, but everybody says Kissimmee.
I love that. I've been by. There's not. I think there's a club there in the Kissimmee, in Florida, somewhere there. Thank you very much. Well done, all the way around. And please, will you come back?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
Thanks for having me.
No, please. We're big fans, and I know there's a lot of interest now in the world that you've been involved with now for the last 11 years or so. And every week there are more people that I meet that are wandering into this, as I'm sure you are meeting these people, and they are absolutely blinded by too many possibilities. And when I tell them, you're as limited as your imagination, they don't want to hear that. They want to hear, well, what is the path? And turns out the only path is the one you find and the one you choose. So thanks for sharing yours. Thanks very much. All right, sit there uncomfortably while I wrap things up here. I think we got to most of your questions there. Thank you, and keep those coming for each and every damn guest. If you watch the Green Room on the Showtime there, a lovely new show, one of the creators and one of the directors of that, the Green Room, and one of the creators and directors of the hit documentary, The Aristocrats. Paul Provenza will be here this next coming Sunday, I believe, along with Rick Overton, who helped start my career in the motion picture business when he and I were brownies, thanks to him in the movie Willow. anyways, I'm very excited about that, and upcoming shows as well. Go to the show schedule to find out if there's anything that interests you, and as always, feel free to continue downloading from the fabulous iTunes, where they remain free at present. I'm glad everyone got their Streamy Awards, but I wonder what
I'm already trying to pick the sticker off like it's a Rubik's Cube.
Oh, well, you're not supposed to take it off, jerk store. I wonder what my crew has been up to now that they've got their Streamy Awards. Just be on the walls of the studio for the last 100 minutes and 27 seconds. If only there was some footage. Oh, there's Mike. He's in a relationship. Emily, aw, in a relationship. So sweet. J-Mac, you. Single. Ha-ha. Coming right at you. And Negrin, it's complicated. What?
They got
nice.
They're for sale on eBay.
Yeah. That's a nice button to the scene. Nicely done, guys and gals. Okay, along with Dr. Chen and Jamie and all the Streamy Award winners here at the Kevin Pollak's Chat Show, we thank you very much for joining us. Tell everyone you've ever met, and then they'll tell everyone they've ever met, and then eventually we'll charge you all. Until then, and as always, get out of my face.
He's all of the rainbows, but none of the rain. He's dry, but he's an alcoholic. He's hosting this train wreck again and again. And he wears a hat. He's